People ask me why I never moved on, why I still write about her, why I can't just let it go. The answer is simple and painful. I never got over her because she set a standard nothing else has ever met. Not my marriage, not duty, not the life I've built since. Today I'm going to explain why. Not with poetry, with comparison. Because the only way to understand why I can't move on is to understand what I lost and what replaced it. She saw me as a person first, not as the crown prince, not as a future ruler, not as a symbol or a function. As a person, with flaws, with doubts, with fears I never showed anyone else. She saw all of that and stayed. Now, I'm seen as a position. My wife sees the crown prince. My family sees the heir. The public sees the symbol. No one sees the person, because the person is buried beneath the role, and the role is all anyone needs from me. That's the first difference. She saw me. Everyone else sees what I represent, and being seen, truly seen, is something you never forget, even when you lose it, especially when you lose it. Because once you know what it feels like to be seen as human, everything else feels like performance. And I've been performing ever since, not because I want to, but because no one's looking for the person anymore. They're looking for the crown prince. And the crown prince is all I'm allowed to be. She loved me without conditions. She didn't love me because I was royal. She didn't love me because of what I could provide. She didn't love me because it served her. She loved me because of who I was when everything else was stripped away. That love was rare, maybe the only time I've experienced it. Now, I'm loved conditionally. My wife loves me respectfully, dutifully, appropriately, but not freely. Because our marriage wasn't built on choice. It was built on arrangement. And arranged love, if you can even call it love, is transactional. I fulfill my role, she fulfills hers. We coexist. But there's no freedom in it, no spontaneity, no moment where I feel chosen, just accepted. That's the second difference. She chose me. My wife accepted me. And being chosen feels fundamentally different from being accepted. Chosen means someone saw all the options and wanted you. Accepted means someone agreed to the arrangement, and you feel that difference every single day, in the distance, in the formality, in the absence of the warmth that comes from being wanted, not just agreed to. She gave me freedom, not literal freedom, emotional freedom, the freedom to be uncertain, to be imperfect, to question everything. She never needed me to have all the answers. She never expected me to be strong all the time. She let me be human, messy, confused, real. And that freedom, that rare, precious freedom, made me feel alive. Now I have stability, structure, security, all valuable things, but none of them feel like life. They feel like function. I function in my marriage. I function in my role. I function in my responsibilities. But functioning is not living. Functioning is surviving. And surviving, while necessary, is empty. That's the third difference. She gave me life. Now I have function. And function, no matter how well executed, will never replace the feeling of being alive. I know that. I accept it. But knowing and accepting don't make it easier. They just make it sustainable. With her, I felt light, not constantly. But often enough, there were moments, real moments, when the weight lifted, when I could laugh without measuring it, when I could speak without calculating consequences, when I could just exist, without armor, without strategy, without performing strength I didn't feel. Those moments were rare, but they were real. Now, I feel heavy all the time. The weight never lifts, not in my marriage, not in my role, not even in private moments, because there are no private moments anymore. Everything is duty, everything is performance, everything is weight, and weight, when it's constant, becomes your identity. You forget what lightness feels like. You forget what it's like to breathe fully. You forget that life can include moments that don't require strength. That's the fourth difference. She made me feel light. Now I feel heavy. And once you felt light, truly, deeply light, heavy becomes unbearable. Not impossible, just unbearable. Because you know what you're missing. And knowing what you're missing is worse than never having had it at all. I don't try to compare. It just happens. Every moment in my marriage, I'm reminded of what it's not. Every formal interaction, I remember what real connection felt like. Every time I perform composure, I remember what it felt like to be vulnerable. The comparison is automatic, involuntary, constant, because she set the standard. She showed me what love could be when it's not arranged, when it's not strategic, when it's just real. And once you know what real feels like, everything else feels like imitation. My marriage is a functional imitation of partnership. My role is a functional imitation of purpose. My life is a functional imitation of living. All of it works. All of it serves its purpose. But none of it feels real, not the way she felt real. And that comparison, that constant, unavoidable comparison, is why I can't move on. Because moving on requires accepting that what I have now is enough. And it's not. It's functional, it's stable, it's sustainable, but it's not enough. Not after knowing what enough actually feels like. She represented possibility, the possibility that my life could include something I chose, that love could exist without approval, that happiness was achievable, that I could be more than my role. She represented hope, not naive hope, but real hope, hope that life could be different, that I could be different, that the future wasn't entirely written. Now, I represent duty, stability, continuity, exactly what I was always supposed to represent. And representing those things is important, necessary, valuable, but it's not hope, it's acceptance. Acceptance that the future is written, that my life serves a purpose larger than myself, that personal happiness is secondary, always. That's the fifth difference. She represented possibility. Now I represent inevitability. And living inside inevitability, when you've tasted possibility, that's suffocating, not dramatically, quietly. The slow suffocation of knowing exactly what your life will be forever, without deviation, without surprise, without hope that anything could change. People think moving on means forgetting. It doesn't. Moving on means accepting that what you have now is enough, that the present can satisfy you, that the past doesn't need to define you. But I can't do that because what I have now isn't enough. It's functional, it's appropriate, it's exactly what was required, but it doesn't fulfill me, and I can't pretend it does, not to myself. Moving on would also require believing that what I lost was replaceable, that someone else could give me what she gave me, that another relationship could feel as real. But I don't believe that, because what she gave me wasn't just love. It was the experience of being chosen, of being seen as human, of existing without conditions, and you don't replace that, you just carry its absence forever. So I don't move on, I just survive, I function, I fulfill my role, and I carry the memory of what real felt like, not to torture myself, but to remember that I'm human beneath the role, that I was capable of real connection once, that I felt alive once, even if I'll never feel it again. Why did I never get over my first love? Because she set a standard nothing else has met. She saw me. Now I'm only seen as a role. She chose me. Now I'm only accepted as appropriate. She gave me freedom. Now I have function. She made me feel light. Now I feel heavy. She represented possibility. Now I represent inevitability. Every comparison shows the same truth, that what I had with her was real, and what I have now is functional. And functional will never replace real, no matter how well it works, no matter how stable it is, no matter how long I live inside it. I never got over her because she showed me what my life could have been if I had been allowed to choose. And knowing what could have been while living what is, that's why moving on is impossible. Not because I don't want to, but because comparison is involuntary, and every comparison reminds me that I lost something irreplaceable, and what replaced it, no matter how appropriate, will never be enough. That's why I never got over my first love. Not because she was perfect, but because she was real, and real, once you've known it, ruins everything else. If you've ever lost the one person who made everything else feel like a compromise, you understand. Some losses don't heal. They just teach you what enough actually means, and that nothing else will ever be it.